the weekly wave. Oh, I can't spend the nose. The weekly wave. Oh, can you tell me who? The weekly wave. Did you see it? The weekly wave. I'm glad you stopped by. Take him to him, baby. Take him up again. Oh, can you tell me who? The weekly wave. Oh, yeah. The weekly wave. Did you know? The weekly wave. That was the most well-timed intro of all time. Most of the time, we're just sitting here awkwardly for that shit, and it worked out. Phone's on Do Not Disturb. Oh, it's time. DJ motherfucking Kombat. Ritchie, you beautiful man. Thanks for making the time, brother.
Do Not Disturb.
Tell him the truth. Tell him to stay out your life. You also got to chug the water. You can't chew down here. You got to go with big gulps. I mean, we just got...
Walked in the rules. All right. Good like this?
Yeah, you can scoot it over a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Perfectamente.
All right.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good.
Running on empty.
Running on empty. But yeah, I'm good, man.
I'm glad to hear it, man. So spent the whole weekend in Indianapolis for the 500.
Yeah, that was it was a crazy event. 300,000 people. The last day. Friday was kind of chill. Saturday was slower. Didn't know what to expect, but we got smoked.
Yeah,
Like a 4-hour rush. It was just. I've never cooked so many quesadillas in my life.
What? Did most of the time, was it like a no beer on the truck kind of situation to the last day? I saw like a Modelo come out at the end. It looked like.
Yeah, we had him hidden. We had him in the back ready.
I'd imagine you can't keep your. I wouldn't be able to stay sane, staying in like an 8x8 quadrant with my friends sweating it out. If I couldn't have a beer,
Right.
stay a little loose with it.
No, it's a whole process. I mean, we set up a whole system. It's kind of like, I guess what do they call it? Like that car, Henry Ford, the line assembly line.
Yeah.
So it's kind of how we set up the food truck. Like, all right, we got our prep station. This person's doing that. I was on the flat top doing like all the quesadillas, and we had people calling out orders, and it's a whole system that goes into it. A little more intricate than what people think. I mean, when you're running out of meat, you need to time it perfectly to cook the meat on the flat top, and if you're doing that, you don't have room to heat up tortillas or make quesadillas, so it kind of backtracks you.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of wait for that perfect window when it like dies down, and then you got to make the decision like, all right, it's got to be now or never.
Yeah.
So,
well, and then what's the way that you can keep that food, in its freshest state in between those rushes, where it's like, you can only account for so much over.
Right. No, there's before this one we bought like a warmer, and there's certain temperatures where you have to keep food, like it's got to be above 141 degrees. And it can't be in between 140 and 40 degrees. Anything in between that, when the food falls in between that, it starts like developing bacteria, which can get people sick.
Yeah.
So you have to keep the food above that temperature. So we bought a warmer that keeps the food above that temperature, and then when that's done, we just switch it out. We constantly got to be checking the temperatures with thermometer and stuff like that. So
yeah. What was it like to go from a brick and mortar spot to the food truck thing?
Big difference. Food truck is strictly about the food. I mean, with brick and mortar, you can entertain people with drinks. If you mess up somebody's order, you can be like, "Let me get you another drink." But this is like,
I've never thought of that as a buffer, where it's like, you know what, you're gonna be here for another 45, maybe an hour. Here's a tequila shot. You know,
right. Yeah, with food truck, it's like you got to get it in and out. So
yeah,
but less room for mistake. I mean, it's a big difference. But we use the food truck when I had the old place as a kitchen, anyways. So we're like super used to working with it.
That's a really interesting development. I feel like there's a lot of folks that came out of the pandemic and said, I want to do something that's more meaningful. I think food is one of those things it's a different type of meaningful. Like subsistence is something that not only do we all need, but we all have an idea of home within our food and our cooking.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that wanted to get in the game, and food trucks had the lowest barrier to entry, but definitely has the highest mistake ratio.
Man.
It's like,
Yeah.
how many people bought the wrong truck, the wrong generator, the wrong grill top, you know?
Oh yeah, no, it's been trial and error for us, but I think food is something in my family. It's always been something that we've been like passionate about. So it's all like my mom's recipes, and it's a little different from my parents because when you're dealing with food commercially, it's no longer like, let me put a little more seasoning on it. It's you have to measure everything at this point because you don't go to McDonald's and it's like, well, what's the Big Mac going to taste like this time? It's the same every single time for a reason. But home cooking is a little bit different. So when you're incorporating home into commercial, it's like you still want that, like, I guess, seasoning on it, that touch on it, but it's a little more measured at this point.
Yeah, well, I think like you said, like there's something to consider in the profit margin and the consistency. Like you need to have things go a very particular direction. With my friends that have been in the world of culinary, like how much has your personal cooking habit kind of suffered because of that?
So much. As far as like the cleanliness part of it, I mean,
He's like, I don't wash my hands at home anymore, man. Like,
no, I mean
I
that's
just put the
always
gloves
like,
on.
that's always standard. But even when I was up there, the health department came in, and my little sister was going to put the gloves on, and she like goes and grabs the gloves, and the guy was like, wash your hands before putting on the gloves, and we're like, okay, I guess that's something to remember now. But
Yeah, but what's the point? Why do I got to double dip? Like,
I don't. Health department.
why am I paying for all this plastic when, like, if I was doing this under God's territory, it'd be the open palm, man. You know?
Exactly right. Gives a little more flavor. No, it's just crazy coming from a culture of like when we go to Mexico, they have like this tree stump and they're cutting the wood, they're cutting the meat on the wood, and I'm like, I know I'm gonna get sick, but it's probably gonna be really good. And it's worth the risk sometimes. And I think about that stuff. I'm like, man, health department would have a field day with places in Mexico and even California nowadays. But
yeah, well, I think there's something to be said about like not everything that we do and live by needs to come out of the formal way of industry doing it. It's like there's nothing wrong with buying a homemade meal from your neighbor at a place that makes some money while also giving them the flexibility to not be a fucking restaurant.
I agree.
And do that kind of thing. And sometimes we forget that we can barter between each other. Like you're a man of many talents. Like I'm sure many people that know you from your world of DJing don't know much about your culinary work and vice versa, unless they've gotten the double dip where you cook for them and spin some sweet records. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're treating people like that, Richie.
There's a lot of people that, they'll come see me and I'm just like, they know that I'm a DJ and support it just from my DJ side of things. And they see me like back there sweating and just cooking food. And I'm just like, got to do what you got to do. I mean, I love it though. I wouldn't do anything if I wasn't passionate about it. So
Absolutely.
It's something that I genuinely love. Like I contemplated for a long time going to school for culinary. I mean, I love to cook at home. I don't know, I guess just something passionate that I love. But.
Yeah. How different is it to work with your sister on these family recipes? Do you all disagree sometimes about how to get there?
It's a fight. It's a fight all the time. No, it's good though because, I mean, with the disagreements also comes growth. And that's like very important. I've learned, my older sister, I've learned to like, we butt heads a lot. But at the end of the day, we're like, all right, what do we learn from this? How can we grow from this? And, she puts me in my place a lot of the times because I can be hard-headed, but then I also like take advice from her. And for the longest time, I feel like it's a little bit different now. I'm always looked at as like the little brother who's just an idiot. And
which is a nice place to be. Like I'm that little brother too. It gives you a lot of clearance to do dumb shit, you know?
Right. And then I'm just like, all right, I have to prove myself constantly. Like, look, I know what I'm doing. Trust me. And building that trust over time is something amazing because now we're in a system where it's like she doesn't have to worry about what I'm doing. She knows that I got it. And it's like, you feel like you're constantly proving yourself, but you're really just growing. And in the relationship between, the whole team. I've seen my little sister's growth a lot within the stuff that she does. And, we all have our strong points, and where there's our weak points, our strong points make up for theirs. And it's a pretty cohesive team.
I think that's one of the things that like having a part, like a serious partner in my life, like my fiance, like realizing that you don't need to get better at everything in your life. Sometimes you need to learn to delegate and totally let go of something. Like that's tough when it's something that affects your pride, your sense of understanding of yourself. It's like, I don't want to be the quiet one that gets told what to do. I want to have my own authority in this. Like, sometimes you got to pick that category.
Yeah.
Really quick, Aiden, would you mind turning up his microphone on the preamp? He's channel 2. So you have 4 siblings?
Yeah,
3 siblings?
I have 1 brother, 2 sisters.
And Enrique is your older brother, and then
He's
your
the
sister
oldest.
is the oldest?
Yeah, Enrique's the oldest. Lucy is below him, and then it's me, and then it's my little sister.
Nice.
So.
And is Enrique involved at all in the family business?
He was, and then he got a good job opportunity to take over an insulation construction business type thing. So he's into construction management. Yeah. And he wanted to go that route, and we were like, you know, if that's what you want to do and passionate about, then we support it, and seems like he's doing good.
Yeah. As a family of 4 siblings growing up in LA, did you ever expect that most of y'all would end up in another city together?
I never really thought of that.
It's a very peculiar thing, I feel like.
Yeah, we moved back in '94. We were all young. None of us spoke English. Spanish.
None of you?
None of us. Yeah, Spanish was our first language. And they were like, we're going to Kentucky. And I was like, what's a Kentucky? So I think we had like an old kid's book, and it was like old McDonald farm book, and it had Kentucky in it. And I was like, we're going to live in a barn with cows and chickens. And it's crazy because the misconception is still somewhat like that out in LA. People really think Kentucky's just, and I mean, you do have your like bluegrass stuff, but it's Cincinnati. You know, essentially is where we live. But yeah, it was definitely a culture shock when we moved. Yeah.
And, okay, so the family moved all together to Cincinnati in '94. Yeah. And is your oldest sister still in town? Like, where's she live at?
Yeah, she lives in Independence.
Okay, cool.
So she's married. She does HR for Jeff Ruby. That's like her main job. Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. Man, it's just so odd when you see families that they work in similar industries. Like, to have 2 brothers that are DJs, that like clearly you guys got to be competitive with each other at some point, but it's not like you're eating in the same places. So some people don't know that you have your counterpart out there doing the thing.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's that alone has been a huge growth aspect when we started. It was just, I mean, growing up in LA, we'd have parties till 2, 3 in the morning, and me and my brother would just chase the DJ lights on the floor. Like, we want the music played louder. And one day we were just like, do you want to DJ? And I was like, sure. So we bought like this little controller, and it had 1 USB out. I'm like, what do we do? 'Cause we didn't know where to start. But we met a friend, I believe his name was Ryan, and he worked at Guitar Center, and my brother had a credit card. He's like, all right, let's just buy whatever we need. So 2 turntables, a Vestax mixer, and Serato, and a computer.
Holy shit.
And we were just like, where do we go from here? And then we started with the YouTube videos.
What age were you at this?
I was 19.
Okay.
19, yeah, fresh out of high school. Didn't know what I was doing with my life. And then picked up DJing a little bit, and then I joined the Marine Corps. I was like, all right, let's see what we can do with this. And came back, continued to DJ. And it was
Did you touch a table the entire time you were in the service?
No, never once.
So you're not even, how old are you when you get out? 23 then?
No, so I did reserves. So
Okay.
I joined, went to boot camp, did my communication school over in 29 Palms, California, came back, and I was stationed here in the reserve. So it was 1 week and a month. So yeah, the whole time that I came back, we were just, I mean, it was, man, the way we started was 2 turntables and a mixer. We had, I think, 120 songs on a laptop on Serato.
Well, what's your top 5 out of that 120 that you remember?
The biggest hit at that time was probably Flow Rider Low.
Okay.
Like around that time, after we had like started somewhat, but yeah, I was a lot more into hip hop back then, and I was into like breaking artists, so I'd play songs that you would never have heard. Like, I heard Young Jock It's Going Down before it even came out, and I was like, this song's gonna be big, and then obviously blew up. But mixing songs was just, I remember in my parents' basement, we would just play one song, and I told my sister Lucy, I was like, "How does this sound?" And I'd play the song, and I'd turn the turntable off, and it would just sound like it slowed down, and I'd play the next one. And she was like, "It's cool, but it doesn't sound like you're doing anything." Like, we didn't know how to mix at all. We didn't know anything about counts. We didn't know about music, nothing. So we would like, the owner of Zazu, he used to be our soccer coach, so he like hired us on a Monday. So I think we were like an hour and a half into our gig, and we ran out of the songs. Like, we were at the end of our list. Like, what do we do? Like, start the list over. And it was the most like. I look back on it and I'm like, man, what? Like, but you know, we ended up. That's when I first realized like, lesson marketing and skills. Like, none of that shit really matters if you're packing out a room.
Man,
And we had Mondays packed. Like, so we're like, whatever. I guess we're doing something right.
for sure. Do you remember what the first mix that really turned the light bulb on to you?
There was a video on YouTube, and there was I forget the DJ's name, but he was teaching about counts and how to mix. And it was next episode with, I forget what song it was, but he would count the song 1, 2, and then he'd drop it. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing together. And I realized now, like, it was in key. It was like perfect mixed together. And I was like, how do I make it sound like that?
Yeah.
So we just kept practicing.
And just kept running songs into each other just to see?
Yeah.
So when's the point in time where you start to like go from, okay, it's not this song and this song, it's this section and that chorus, you know what I mean? Like instrumentals to vocals, acapellas. When did those come into your life?
I guess kind of all at once. I realized that I was like, the way that I was DJing, I would pick out like big vocal points in songs when it came to like scratching. And I'd be like, okay, this is a big part of the song that people remember. So if you like kind of isolate that out and then mix it into another song, people were like singing the popular part of the song and mixing it with another. And that was before I knew about like keys and mixing in harmony and stuff like that. I was like, all right, this kind of sounds cool, but how do you make it better?
Yeah.
And then with DJing, like I always tell people, like shit just clicks. Like when I started like trying to learn how to do a crab scratch, I would just literally like sit there with a mixer and just click all my fingers. I'm like, it's gonna work someday. And it's so frustrating because it just doesn't. And
Yeah, you called it a crab scratch?
crab scratch. Yeah.
Okay.
You just take all your fingers on the fader, and you're opening the sound, closing it with all the fingers. So it just sounds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's how you really get like it's almost like you're turning down by a quarter each time. Like you're making that full movement, but it's kind of jagged.
So it's, you have the fader where it's closed, and then you open up the fader, and then you pressure your finger onto the fader, and then you click it with your pinky, your index, your middle, and your ring, middle, and your index, and you're clicking them all, so it opens and it closes real quick, and it sounds like a a crab, I guess. But it's called a crab because you're using all fingers.
Gotcha. And it kind of has that jagged, like that quick paced movement.
Yeah, you'll hear. I mean, when you hear it, it just sounds like kind of like a helicopter sound.
Cool. And what's your left hand doing when you're pulling something like that off? You're holding onto that vocal, whatever that part of that phrase is. You're saying.
That's a lot of the part about scratching that is super important, because your left hand has to have so much muscle memory to where if you're moving your left hand faster, you go up in pitch. So it's, you know, when it goes and it makes a different sound. You have to have the muscle memory to be able to move it at the same rate every single time in order for the sound to sound consistent. Because I could do the same scratch and move it fast and it'll sound higher pitch. But if I do it slower, I'm still moving my hand the same, but I'm moving this hand slower, and it just brings down the pitch. So it's like, there's so many different dynamics. I could go fast up and then slow down.
Yeah.
But muscle memory on the left hand, which I'm right-handed, is like crucial, because that's how you make a sound consistent. Because if you're kind of all over the place, it's going to sound sloppy.
And how much did going from a USB, mic setup to an actual table, how much do you get to change that development? Like if you
nowadays with sound being digital, it's almost like dead on. I mean, the
Really?
feel of a record is very crucial. Like if you got a needle on a real record, you're gonna be able to tell every single sound. Now in Serato, you have this thing called pitch lock, where it doesn't matter. You can move it up, 30 BPMs, and it's gonna stay in the same key. As opposed to a record, if you speed it up, you could tell every single, you know, like movement that happens on it.
Yeah, every little turn is a couple more frequencies in that direction.
Yeah.
And so how much does like when you're thinking I want to scratch over this tune, do you have a bag of vocals that are in a certain frequency range that you load up and it's like, I'm not even going to use this vocal, I just need this frequency behind the scratch?
With vocals, it all depends. That's more of like sound effects. If you put a line, if you put like a phono, a real record, from line into phono, it'll make like a loud beep. Mm-hmm. And you can start doing some really cool stuff with that when you like speed up the record and slow it down. As far as vocals go, I try not to do it too much because then you're changing the integrity of the song. Like somebody sang on that, you're kind of like, why do you want to make their voice sound like that? Mm-hmm. It's more of like, I guess, production aspect of things.
And that kind of makes me... I hear your voice as a musician most through your scratching because it seems like that's one of the things you've worked the hardest to hone in. Mm-hmm. But for like from the audience perspective, for guys that don't do it, where do you see most DJs finding their voice?
Programming. I mean, programming single-handedly is probably one of the most important things in DJing. And programming, I mean, it's... To me, I enjoy programming, not as much as I do anymore, because programming is like, you have this path, and most DJs, a lot of DJs don't follow it, because a lot of DJs have never been taught how to program. So like, you have a night, and you're like, okay, how do you get from point A to point B with it making sense and not being too like, this? You got to go from this song, it's got to be in the same year, same era, on top of that, maybe the same key, but it just makes sense on the vibe that you're going. You know, you wouldn't go from a song that's country into a hardcore EDM song, even though I do shit like that all the time.
Yeah, your Sundays are well. Hey, get a little more up on that mic if you don't mind.
Sorry. Even though I do that like all the time, and programming is very essential to keep a room. But I'm starting to realize, especially with like going to school for music and stuff like that now, music is like, I feel like every rule is meant to be broken in music. Nowadays, where it's kind of like you do have your certain stuff that you got to stick by, but let's try this, and if it sounds good, why not do it?
That's a great point. It's almost like the way a comedian's going to set you up to think he's going somewhere, and there's either two options. He's either going to go the opposite direction, or it's going to go into a place that you're worried it's going to go to. You know what I mean? Like it develops in the severity.
It's a lot of risk.
You take a lot of wonderful risks. So, like, one of the things I love about your sets is the way that you play with harmony. It's not exactly the right key if I'm going to pull something. It's something that challenges your ear on a couple of these moments, and you let that dissonance build. You know it's there, and then you pull somewhere where it's just like you can either feel the relief or you can feel the tension double, and it's fucking awesome. Right. You did it with a Morgan Wallen tune the last time I saw you, where it's like you had some techno like underlay that was like hard, trancy, and I was having a great time to like. I don't like that Morgan Wallen tune very much,
right?
But once you introduced that and it had this little bit of dissonance, I was like, that's sexy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I'll do stems. It's a new thing on Serato where you can stems you can separate the vocals with the bass line and the melody and then the drums. So with that song, I'll take Morgan Wallen's like a cappella and I'll scratch on the last night, and then I'll go into a song called Edge by Rez, which is like pretty hardcore dubstep, I guess. But it's more of like the mainstream dubstep. But the build up goes into it, and I'll like scratch into last night. But like that one crucial part of the song that everybody remembers, it's like all over TikTok, is when you drop it, and usually people are like, what's going on? They're like, oh, like once it hits, they're like, oh shit, that sounds dope. And I'm like, I did it like just fucking around one night, and I was like, damn, that sounds pretty cool. And it's not exactly in the same key either, but I'm like, why does this sound so good? Like, but it's just such a song from left field to right field, and you're like, it's like catches people off guard. Yeah,
dude, the stems implementation to Serato seems like the ultimate game changer, though. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, I don't need to go through the classic catalog of DJ works to find these acapellas or these drum beats that I just want to have on stock. I can pull songs apart in real time and have some fun.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a game changer. definitely something that can be overdone. Like when it first came out, I was stemming everything. I was like, all right, chill out, dude. Because I guess one of the biggest things that I've had to learn recently, and this is what keeps me on my toes, is like sometimes I get in my own head and I'm like, I'm bored. I just need to let the fucking song play. Like, there's been times where I go out and I hear other DJs. I'm like, damn, I haven't even heard the second verse of this song in so long, because when I'm DJing, I'm just in and out. And one of the biggest things like this year that I'm learning is let the song breathe. Text somebody, do something different, just let the song play, because I piss a lot of people off when I'm flying through songs. And
really?
Sometimes I really just need to let the song play. Like, that's super important too. Having that discipline is also pretty tough when you're in a high-paced environment. You're trying to please everybody. But not every single song has to be a climax. Not every song has to be a wow effect. Sometimes bring them back down, let the room settle a little bit. And then if you want to have your peaks and, but it's tough with the implementing stems into it. You got so much that you could do with music, and you're kind of like, all right, what's going on?
Yeah.
But
well, it's really interesting to talk about moving past songs so quickly, because I think like audiences are changing very quickly in front of us. People's expectations, because of the internet, because of DJs they see on TikTok or bands they see on Instagram or whatever the fuck it is, the way they want to experience a show has become way more particular. And sometimes you need, like me and my buddy Aiden there, we're just talking about, like, you need to set them up and knock them down, set them up and knock them down almost all night long.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes the bridge of a song is unacceptable, and sometimes they know that bridge like the back of their hand, and you have to play it.
Right.
And in the pursuit of trimming the fat in all of our sets, we find these lulls that people go through with these songs for no rhyme or reason. Like, why was it huge last week and awful this week? Because Shut Up and Dance is going on week 56, and we got to take it out. Like, we got to be done with that shit.
Right. But I mean, you as a musician, when people play your music out or whatnot, you remember every single second of that song, I bet. You remember exactly how you were recording it, and you have more of an appreciation to it because it's your song. So you're kind of like, damn, I want to hear this whole song. It's your song. But as DJs, we're kind of like, what is the best part of this song? How do I hit that and go on to the next best part of the next song? Because one of the biggest highs as DJs that you get is that reaction from the crowd. Be like, holy shit. And then once you get that, you just want it over and over and over. And it's like, you got to build that. But you also have to know how to release that. Like, like you were saying with tension in music, you also got to know, like, all right, it's time to chill, get people to go to the bar and drink. That's all part of like programming too, but I mean it's a lot more intricate than people think.
Yeah.
So,
when did you develop your Patron time motif? When did that come into your set?
Oh man, years ago. The person who actually started with that was Davey.
No way.
Yeah, Davey C. And I think I was like in Iraq, and I came back. Before I left for Iraq, Davey was like helping us promote at Zazu when we were doing Mondays, and I got deployed to Iraq. So I came back, and Davey was a DJ. I was like, what the fuck happened? And then there was like 10 different new DJs. I'm like, holy shit has changed.
That's awesome. How long were you gone?
7 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is that considered a long deployment?
It's typical for Marine Corps.
Okay.
Marines typically deploy 6 months at a time.
And was that the only deployment you did?
I went to Africa. That was the only combat deployment that I did.
Gotcha.
So,
and
Africa.
how long after was that?
For Africa?
Yeah.
That was towards the end of like my term. That was in 2011, I want to say. I officially got out 2014. Iraq was 2009, 2010. So.
Were those very formative experiences in your life, or are they kind of just like blips that feel like a different life?
Man, sometimes it feels like it was yesterday, and it's more than a decade ago now. I mean, definitely life-changing, like awesome experiences. Like the bonding and stuff that you do with people is great. It helps you like open up your mind to what the rest of the world is like, and I don't know, that's such a loaded question.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a very difficult thing to unpack with people that haven't experienced it, too. It's like the naivety that someone like myself has about it.
Yeah, it's different, though, because people are like, I don't know how you did it. And I'm always like, try to explain to people. It's like, well, somebody walks up to you, punches you in the face, what do? You react. Whether it's you fall down, you cry or something, you just react. And the only thing that we could do in Iraq is react off the training that we got. So it's something happens, you're reacting. You train so much that when something does happen, everything that you trained in, you're already doing it without thinking about it.
Yeah.
So if you're a fighter and you're fighting people constantly, you get hit in the face, you're going to probably hit somebody back, or you're going to defend yourself in a way to where, you know, people always say, like, I don't know how you did it. It's like, everybody can do it if you're put in that position. Trust me, if you're backed into a corner, you're going to do something.
Yeah.
So anything can be done, I think, under any circumstances if you're put in a position.
And how does your training today for all the things you do with your life relate to that? Like, do you practice much in your day-to-day? Do you have a long list of disciplines, or is it like you kind of return to being yourself from before that?
You're talking about from the military?
Yeah.
There's certain things that I picked up, certain stuff that I definitely lack on now. I think one of the biggest things that came out of the military is like depression and shit like that, because you feel like you went to do a job and it's almost like pointless. I don't know if I really believe on what we were doing out there. I just knew that I had to do my day-to-day mission. This is what I had to do and be the best at that. You start looking into the bigger picture, you're like, like you can really go down a rabbit hole. But as far as like day-to-day stuff, there's still a lot of stuff that I carry with me that I learned in the Marine Corps. But you just look at life different. I mean, I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
21 years old in Iraq. Like, what is that mentality supposed to be? You know,
Yeah.
you want to have fun, but when you're over there, you have to have some sense of discipline. So
that existential stuff you touch on, where it's like, especially with a mission as heavy as that, it'd be hard to imagine there aren't folks that stay up at night with questions of what is a good life worth. You know, every day when we wake up and go to our jobs, especially folks that work in the entertainment industry, it's like, on slow nights, I question everything sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, on packed nights, I question everything sometimes. It's a very odd pursuit, and like, there's not a lot of cures for the existential in life besides strong affirmation, you know, spiritual development, and great relationships.
right.
And those are hard things to get in this life, man.
Yeah, I mean, especially the industry that we work in, you got the temptation of obviously alcohol, drugs, everything like that goes into it. And, you know, the more that you like dive into that stuff, the more it actually opens up your mind to be like, okay, if you do feel depressed, if you do feel sad, take a step back from it. Take care of yourself, take care of your body. You know, every time I start to get like depressed and sad and shit like that, I'm like, okay, just go to the gym, eat healthier for a week, and then you'd be surprised the wonders that does for people.
Especially going to the gym, man. I feel like we all have so much need to feel like we got something done, and there's nothing like sweating that does that to you.
It's like hands down the best feeling. And
Yeah.
it sucks. Like the hardest part is just getting there. But then once you work out, you're like, all right, and your mind is like positive. It's crazy what it does for you.
Yeah. When I feel for people who weren't forced at some point to find out the honest truth on that kind of thing. Like, if you didn't go through a tough athletic program or some kind of background in training where someone's standing over you screaming that you got another one to give, and you're like, I don't think I got another one to give.
Oh, man, your body will give so much more than what people give it credit for.
Yeah,
There's been so many times in boot camp that I was just like, I can't. And then 3 hours later, I'm still doing the same shit. I'm like, I'm still mopping this floor on all fours. What? How? It was crazy. Yeah. Third day in boot camp, I wanted to quit. I was standing in front of the drill instructor's door at like 3 a.m. Just, you had to like stand on these yellow footprints and knock on the door with your hand. And I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. And nobody answered. I was like, if he would have came out, I'd be like, I'm done. I don't want to be a Marine. Fuck all this. Because they destroyed me so bad on the third day that I couldn't move my arm. Like, people mop a floor with a mop. We were mopping the floors with like towels, and somebody had taken my gloves because we were going to go do PT. So for like 4 hours straight, me and another recruit mopped the whole squad bay, like where we all slept. And then I was like, we were like done. I was like, all right, we're almost done. And he kicks a bucket over again. And I was like, this is never going to end.
Bro, that's sinister. That's deeply sinister. But that's
that night, I was like, I'm done. I couldn't feel my shoulder. And I was like, I went to bed that night crying, And I was like, man, what am I doing? Like, why am I here?
Yeah.
But the next day I woke up, I was like, man, I got 60 or 90 days, however long boot camp is. Yeah, 90 days. I was like, I got 85 days left of this shit. I was like, how? And from that moment, I was like, day by day, kept my mouth shut, and then I ended up like thinking, I was like, that's the best decision I ever made.
That's beautiful.
Thank God nobody answered.
Dude, what like a hilarious metaphor of like I showed up to quit and the office was closed. You know what I mean? It's
Dude,
like
facts. That's crazy.
You know?
That's fucking crazy.
and I think there's a lot of things to call the great unknown and why you're here and what that is, but like there's someone on your shoulder in that moment that says like you are destined for something more than what this moment is making you think.
Right.
And whether that's an actual voice or it's just this figment of our imagination, like you kind of do better when you listen to that voice, when you trust in the plan and you go day at a time for the things that you know are good for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's still so many awakening moments in my life going on currently where you can do things you want to, but then you're like, you know what, there has to be a purpose for this.
Yeah.
But I think commitment is so important to anything.
Absolutely.
So
I feel like, especially in our community, but it seems like in most dimensions of your life, you're a pretty potent giver. With most of the things you have, you tend to share those with, the people that come knocking that you feel fit. Is that something you grew up around, or is that just something that you developed as an adult?
I don't know. My dad was definitely always a giver. My family's they've always been givers. I mean, that's more, I think, of my dad's side of the family, where it's like they try and take care of people, and then we forget to take care of ourselves sometimes, which is super important.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think my thing is, like, you almost feel selfish when you want to take care of somebody. You're like, all right, you want them to be happy, but then I think way too deep, and I'm like, wait, am I being selfish because this makes me feel good? I'm like, no, you're doing the right thing. Shut up, just do it.
Yeah. Like the question of like, is altruism like a real thing? Like, am I really doing this for them, or am I doing it for me?
Because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, you know what? That's at least better than some people.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why it feels good, though. I think that's why it's built into our system. It's like there's something about this species surviving where we've chemically built in the dopamine release of you picked him up and you both went together and we moved forward, and that's like
right.
That's a beautiful thing. But there's also something in the tribe mentality that says this person no longer serves us. To the curb they go.
Evolution.
Yeah, man.
Seriously, though.
Nothing like waking up on a Sunday morning with a text from a friend, be like, Darwinism just kicked in. You're at the club, man. Like we can't get with you no more.
Yeah. No, that's crazy, but I mean that's real. Like that's factual things that actually are still going on. We're still evolving, so it's
Dude, that's a really trippy thought. We're still evolving. It's like, you ever heard the thing about like your pinky is now starting to turn because it holds your phone so often on the bottom?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's
it
like
starts like if you look at your hand, you're
eventually you're gonna have a hard 7 at the end of your hand, and like that's how I hook on to shit, man.
Oh, trust me, the infomercials are coming from Apple. Apple's about to be sued from everybody.
With your line of work, are you stuck in the Apple atmosphere? Would you ever go PC?
Man, they better come up with a really good laptop. 'Cause
Really?
MacBooks are just... MacBooks are the way for audio production.
Yeah.
It is.
Did you get a new one with the M1 chip?
Yeah.
That shit does fly. I'm amazed.
That's flawless. Dude.
Especially for guys like... The DJ world requires a certain amount of storage. You can put some of that on an external, and I think that's the safest way, but then you have to worry about the upload speed and all that kind of stuff. So that hard drive needs to have all my backups on it and be ready to go, man. And like it was non-modifiable. Like tear your motherboard out, sucks to suck,
Yeah, the older laptops that I used to get was before 2012 MacBooks. You can open them up, and I used to be able to like change the hard drive and all that stuff.
You can do all that yourself?
Yeah, but
put the gloves on, wash your hands first, all that.
Right.
Little Cajun something.
No, but then they got smart, and then like with stems coming out, you can't use stems with old laptops. So
It'll just eat.
So then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna bite the bullet. Thank God it did, because, I mean, you're only as good as your performance or your equipment allows you to be.
Yeah.
And I see DJs, I'm like, they got these new mixers that you could do everything in front of you, and they're all like, oh no, I like my stuff. I'm like, dude, you're missing out on so much opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, you have to move on with technology. You can still be your old school shit and all that, but you have to adapt to the new shit too.
Bro, those the little laser turn things, whatever the fuck you call that little piece of wood, the thing that you put on your table, that's like
the phase.
Yeah, the dude. I don't know what to
Game
call it.
changer too, man.
The first time that Ace showed me one of those, like, I was geeked out because I didn't realize what you guys were going through in that world until those became available, man.
Yeah, I'd have to buy new needles all the time. I'm like, that's it. That saves you money. Phase is actually more accurate.
Yeah.
Because it's a straight digital signal, and it's just, I don't know, it's a game changer, to say the least. It's made my hand a little heavier, so if I was to like go on real records and needles again, like, I'd probably jump, so I got to go back to like a soft touch. But
how's you hurt your forearm or your wrist maybe 2 years ago now? Didn't you have a surgery?
No.
I thought I remembered you wearing a wrist brace around.
Oh no, so I was doing remodeling during COVID, and I was helping a buddy out, his dad's company, and I never realized that I had a carpal tunnel until I started like hammers and all that stuff, and I was like, I would like have a lot of pain, so I started wearing a brace. And I was like, is this gonna go away? I was like, you know what, I think I'm just gonna stop doing remodeling.
Yeah.
But no, it was painful for a while, and even when I would DJ, I would like show up, it was like, damn, my hands hurt, like I couldn't crab scratch the way I used to, and it started affecting that. But never surgery. There was a thought about surgery when I had talked to my nurse practitioner, and she was like, we can go that route, but we suggest that you just chill out on the hardware and all that stuff. And I'm like, damn, I'm a man, I'm supposed to be able to do this shit. But
no man, you're
I just took a break.
Got the shit. You've been through it, dog.
So I was like, you know what, I need to chill on it, and then it's never come back ever since.
Thank God.
But
I have a lot of aches and pains with my wrists and whatnot, and it's just one of those fears, man, to lose your access to your instrument because of those things. And like, that's one of the things that led me to yoga. I just keep hearing like movement is the cure for your aches and pains, but it has to be meaningful movement. You can't weight bear and do all these things. You can't sit there with a hammer in hand all day long. It's like, this machine will break down if you don't give it what it needs to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, you as a musician, you probably have a lot of aches and pains from playing guitar all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like the forearms feel like they're not doing what you want them to. You get slower over time. You get tighter over time, and then you get frustrated, and you play even tighter because of that. It's like,
oh yeah, when we have scratch sessions, and I haven't like DJ'd or scratched in a while, and we'll start scratching. I mean, I'm like constantly like, all right, because this whole part right here starts to tense up, and I'm like, all right, I gotta shake this out.
Dude,
like, here we go again.
Brad Martin was telling me about getting a grafting massage where they take what looks like what they pop a beer tab with, and like they just go over that whole thing and break up the fascia and all these. Like, dude, I was bruised, but it changed the way I felt. I was like, I might do that, but I'm kind of terrified of the pain of it. That sounds awful.
Yeah, but the things you go through as a musician, I mean, so
yeah. So you're back in school at NKU.
Yeah.
What's it like to become a student again in that?
Oh man, I hate these fucking kids. No, I don't. I don't. But
these fucking kids.
I look at a lot of these kids, and I'm like, man, that was me,
dude.
So it's a different appreciation for school. You feel like you're closer to the professors than you are the students, and then some professors are older than you, and I'm like, fuck, what is going on? But I'm just grateful of it. So everything that even the prerequisite courses that I have to take, that when I was 18 I wouldn't have given a shit about. I'm like, damn, this is some really cool shit to like learn.
Like what? Like what had you floored last semester?
Man, even like the first semester, like a public speaking course. There's certain ways and manners you're supposed to stand when you talk to people that I was like, damn, this is fucking cool. Because there's days where I wish I would have taken, I did like a DJ class. I wish I would have taken the public speaking course before I did the DJ class. Because then it helped me prepare, like, okay, this is what I should, because at the DJ class I was like, let's do this. And then I'd veer off here. And then I'm like, wait, there's got to be a method.
Yeah.
But even little things like that, I mean, like anthropology class, like learning about like humans and shit, like did we evolve from apes? Yes, we did. Or you know what? It's
Let's go with the probably. Like we can't tell for sure, but like when I go to the giant ark that's in Kentucky, I'm also like, I don't know if that's the answer.
it really makes you, man, test your faith. And like a good friend of mine said, faith just makes life a little less shitty. So you got science, and then you have your faith, and you're kind of like, what are, like, I'm more leaning on the scientific fact because, like, these are facts.
Yeah.
But
I think both of them have great merit. It's just like, if one, they can't survive without each other in some ways. But if you aren't able to, like, think through it rationally and change your mind comfortably, then you've gone stale as a person. You know, like, good faith is worth questioning. It will make it stronger, or it will get you off some silly shit, you know?
yeah, I mean, it could make you crazy, and not having faith could make you crazy too. So it's, who knows, man? It's crazy to think how old the Earth is.
Oh, yeah.
With. And we're like, I mean, I've been on this Earth 35 years, and this Earth is billions. And it's like, what has happened?
Yeah.
I can't imagine, you know, when Neanderthals were rolling, like they got fired. And it's like, how was that feeling?
Well, it's also weird to think that like the pieces that make up your existence, your person, have been here the whole time, billions of years.
Yeah.
And this particular assembly is just now, and a billion years from now, it'll be a totally different thing. It's like, that's hard to grasp. And to think that like we fill ourselves with embalming fluid and put ourselves in a nice basket in a concrete block in the ground. It's like, no, man, we were meant to be worm food. You know, the best type.
It's crazy because, especially like we overuse everything. We're so greedy. Like, humans are the worst things that could ever happen to this earth.
I don't know, man. If the rats had our kind of intelligence, do you think they'd be balling? You know, like I watch like NYC rats, and like they seem like they have the same turmoils that we do, except they don't give a shit about us. You know what I mean? Like,
except we're all just getting bigger. Rats look like cats now, and it's like, how much bigger can we get? Like,
and you know, one day I'm gonna start having my PetSmart full of rats, pets rats. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, yeah. If you think about it, I don't know, in a whole other dimension, like, who knows?
Yeah, it's weird to think of if another species got here before we did, and why.
Right. Yeah.
There's a very good
Dinosaurs.
case to be made that like there's some things in the ocean that could probably outwit you if we were apples and apples. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
like the octopus might be a little smarter than we are. The dolphins might be a
Dolphins
little.
are definitely smarter.
Dude, they can turn off half their dome, and they're not spinning in circles. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely some trippy things to think about. On some trippy stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you're going through a bout of a hard time where, you know, like if the normal day-to-day doesn't feel good and then you spiral into those thoughts, it's like weed's a great thing until it sends you over the edge and you're freaking out.
And
your
anxiety
ass.
kicks in and you're like, fuck.
It's 3 a.m. and you're still thinking about that shit.
You gotta wait it out at that point.
You ever leave a gig and you have one of the bits of your set playing on a loop in your head? Like
oh my God. I think about music. I don't play music when I leave gigs.
Yeah.
It's a silent drive home, and it's the best thing in the world.
I like podcasts for that reason. Like, I don't like listening to a ton of music in my spare time unless I'm working, you know? Like, and if I'm listening to something I love, I'm working because I'm digesting my heroes, you know, and I want to regurgitate that in some way.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of music we listen to is insane. And it's a blessing. Trust me, I'm grateful of it and everything like that. But sometimes silence is the best noise.
Yeah.
Because you let your brain rest. I do a lot of audiobooks too, which are awesome. I can't read. Like, I can read, but I'm like, I'll read one page and one paragraph, and then my mind's like, what am I doing later?
Yeah.
So audiobooks is like so different for me to listen to. So when I leave gigs, I'll do audiobooks or stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think like our driving time is so valuable to us because we're very trainable as people. Like you were talking about the military, like you're taught to do things in a way that when the time comes, you're not going to think about it. It's
Right.
going to happen. When it comes to like your passive time of you're behind the wheel doing something that you barely have to think about, but it's an active task. You know, your eyes are on the road, you're doing the thing. That opportunity to speak things into your mind, whether it's nonsensical facts, an awesome book, or something that's really meaningful content for you, it's like that's a hard selection we got to make because it's like your diet and anything else. If you're consuming garbage, you will be garbage.
Literally, yeah. I mean, everything that you surround yourself in your world is pretty much what you're going to be, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So learning to change bad habits and starting to, like, the older you get, like, you have to really cancel some people out of your life that aren't bringing anything to the table anymore, and it sucks because it could be people you love, but
You gotta hit them with the Darwin, bro.
Yeah,
You know?
no,
We
yeah.
evolved, dog.
but you know, you wish everybody the best, but yeah, like you said, if you put garbage in your body, you're going to become garbage.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that's we have a need for competition because we like to isolate our weaknesses and we like to get past those things. Like that is the call to evolve every day in our life. It's not like we're trying to sprout another thumb. We're just trying to be better as a species to each other, to our planet, to all those things. And I think you have to line everybody up to start to address these things. It's like I think the battles are a good opportunity to size people up in this city, man. And you do a beautiful thing by instilling a healthy competition with meaningful purpose. That's also just cutthroat. It's angry, bro.
man, yeah, they're coming up. So
Oh, it's getting heated. I can feel it.
yeah, they start in July.
I'm talking shit to DJs for nobody. You know what I mean? I'm like, Vinny's taking it home this year, dog. I'm telling you.
No, it's man, it's crazy. People who have never competed and then they compete for the first time. Literally every single person was like, "Thank you for doing this. Thank you for." It makes you step outside your comfort zone. And when people like being in their comfort zone, but you don't grow from being in your comfort zone. So when
Yeah.
you do something different, it's like, so I always tell DJs, like, look, it's not that you're necessarily going to win the battle, or if you do, like, but you're doing something different. Like, if you're a performer, you're a DJ, and you're in a comfortable place, like, you're not growing. Like, you almost, like, every time I get a new gig, if it's a different city or a new gig somewhere, I have butterflies in my stomach. And that lets me know, like, okay, I appreciate it and I still care.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, new rooms especially do that, man. It's so weird to go and size up a space and try to imagine, like, you walk in and the club's empty, okay? You walk in, it's just you, the bartenders, and maybe 10 people in there. And you're like, what's it going to be like when there's no walking room, I'm at the loudest I'm going to be, and I'm tired and shit's about to get weird? It's like, you have no idea. And if that doesn't give you a little bit of the wiggities,
And then, yeah, it goes either two ways. By the time midnight hits, if there's nobody in there, you're like, all right, it is what it is. We're drinking or we're chilling. And then when it does get packed, it is, it's one of the highest highs you can get where you're like, the crowd's feeling it and you're kind of like, damn, you don't want this night to end.
Yeah. What do you do when you're bombing? How do you pivot out if things aren't going well? Especially on a packed night.
You regroup.
Okay.
Man. Yeah.
Just go to the tried and true, or do you kind of?
So and that's one of the other things recently that I've been doing is I've been dumbing down my sets to where I'm just like, I could be doing all this like cool shit, and the DJs love it. The DJs are like, damn, that was dope, but people are like, can you play Morgan Wallen and play the whole thing? And I'm just like,
I'm gonna play the whole thing.
I'm like, I have to respect that, they're a fan and they're a patron, they're spending money.
Yeah.
But when I'm bombing, like, I came back from Indy one time. I played up in Indy and I did an earlier set, and I had Vinny open for me at Tin Roof, and I walk into Tin Roof around 11, and Vinny's like crushing it. He's like killing the room, like doing a great job. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go on 11:30 midnight. So I hop on after Vinny. I definitely had a chip on my shoulder, feeling egotistical. Like, all right, he opened up for me. I got to do better.
Yeah.
And I hop on.
Gotta put Vinny in his place.
Right. I hop on, and I start like scratching, and people are like, and then the room starts emptying. And I was like, oh shit, like I just bombed this. And it was so humbling. It was so amazing because I was like, all right. So then I like regrouped, and I was like texting Vinny. I was like, I need you back on. Like, this isn't my night right now. And reeling them back in is just literally letting the song play longer, playing songs that were going to be bangers, like sing-alongs, and just letting them play. So if I got to just stand up there as a DJ and mix one song to the other, that takes a lot of discipline too. Knowing that you could do some crazy cool shit with it, but a lot of times it goes over people's heads.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way where it's like sometimes I get really heavy-handed in pushing my original stuff because my only way for this to get better is to live and die by the materials that I own and I can give people wholly rather than give them my half-assed version of a cover. But sometimes to teach them how to enjoy things, you need to give them the plane of comfort with, I know the lyrics of this song. I'm ready to participate.
Yeah.
Get them to root and rah a little bit. then come back and give them something. It's like, and what's a healthy ratio? You never know until you get up there and until you're bombing, and you need plan A through E of where we're going to go with this. And like that's hard to convey between 4 or 5 guys. Like I have an easier time taking requests and doing that nonsense by myself because it's similar to a DJ where it's like, I know what I can do, I know what I can't do, I know I can fake this. It's like with the band, like there's no faking. Like once we get in, like someone needs to be telepathically telling everyone, like, I know where we're going. Here's what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, and if you eat it in front of those people like that, like I was just at the Indie Tin Roof. We did the 3 nights for the 500.
Yeah.
Bro, by night 3, I'm really gassed, and people were just putting their phone in my face, and I told the band, like, this guy was being rude to me, and, like, this was, like, my completely, I got so drunk on Friday that I was so hungover Saturday, so I was like, I'm not drinking on Saturday, chugging a bunch of water, just trying to be clear-minded. This guy's driving me nuts. He's playing with my fan. Gosh. He's making requests, and I had the most clear-minded thought of, like, okay, I'm going to get a big mouthful of water, I'm just spit it on him. I was like, oh, never mind. That's definitely assault. I shouldn't do that. But, like, you know, sometimes these people just get you in such a mood, man. You're like, this is how I should fix my night. It's like, no, play Freebird. You know, give him the wagon wheel, whatever. Don't spit on somebody.
How often you hate the Freebird?
I hit the Freebird once every 3 months, and most of the time I really try to be absurd to people.
I don't think people really understand when they say it how stupid they sound.
Yeah, well,
you always Freebird, and you're like, oh, you're that guy.
And they don't understand what they're asking for. It's like the other day when I played it, there's no pop. They don't know the song. They don't know what to sing along with. It's like, it's such a recurring theme as a drunk guy meme that it has very little to do with the song and all its excellence.
I don't think they know what they're saying when they say it. It's like,
and then you try to give them what they're asking for. It's like, that's why now I'm realizing, like, oh, I should charge $75 to do that. Like, that's just what I should do.
100%.
Yeah,
because then you would be like, I'm playing this. I'm excited. Someone requested.
Yeah. I told them the other night in Indianapolis, hey, it's not a free bird. It's a $50 bird. You send that cash up here, I'm going to make something happen. And I had a great time doing it. But again, they didn't know what was going on. You know, I could have played Tuesday's Gone by Skinner. They would have been like, brother. You know?
It's like this one girl at Tin Roof a couple weeks ago. She was like, it was a Saturday. So Saturday's more of like bachelorette parties. Definitely more of like a country crowd. But this girl was walking through the crowd. She had a Selena shirt on. I was like, oh, okay, that's my type of shit. I'm Mexican. I play Selena and nothing. But I play Cardi B next. And she was like, yeah. I was like, what are you doing? Like, but, you know how it is. Some people really don't know much about music.
Yeah.
It's interesting the way it works. Last night when I was DJing, there was a couple girls in there. And she wanted to hear a certain song. So my thing is, when people request songs, I don't say no, I don't say yes. I say maybe. That way, if you say no, you're an asshole. If you say yes and you don't play it, you're an asshole. If you say maybe, that's it. But the problem with these DJs is they say maybe and then they make eye contact. And I'm like, you say maybe and you turn your head and you get back to work. Yeah. That way they're kind of like not bothering you. Because once they have you hooked, you're done. Yeah. You're done.
That's a great point, man. I've been trying to think about how to take the requests a little more reasonably. Because just like, I can't encumber my night with your nonsense in between songs. I have a room to entertain. Mm-hmm. And you're making me look like an asshole, and then you're treating me like an asshole because I'm not going to play Selena for you.
Entitled people, man. I think one DJ posted not too long ago, it was like, what if we just start letting people request their song over the microphone and see what the crowd says? Can you imagine? Oh, you want to hear this? Let's see what the crowd has to say about it.
Yeah.
And then,
I think we should go back to the days where you could throw shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready.
Myself included.
Dude, trust me, I step into the fire. I'm an asshole to people sometimes. I make them feel stupid. Like I said last night, this girl, I didn't play her song. She kept saying, you're the worst fucking DJ ever. You fucking suck. And I was like, all right. So I was like, come around here real quick. I was like, what do you know about DJing? She's like, nothing. And I'm like, then why am I a terrible DJ? Because I'm not playing your song?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh, so now I'm a bad DJ because I didn't play a song that you wanted to hear. Well, I didn't mean it that way. And I'm like, oh, your demeanor changed now that we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like, it gets exhausting because you want to teach people lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, they leave at the end of the night. We're like, okay, I respect the DJ a little more because it's not all about me. But I don't think people's mentality really changes that much.
Dude, but people do change when you go from guy on stage talking to member of audience to person talking to person.
Yeah.
And, like, the other day, like, our set finished at 2:30 on Saturday night. That was my sober night, so like I'm just tired and I want to get out of there. And there's this jackass, and he keeps hitting the front of my kick drum, and I'm like, hey man, stop doing that. And then he proceeds to tell me how much he likes my music and how this is like the 4th show he came to. And I was about to berate this guy for being a drunk asshole.
Man.
And he ended up making my weekend, but he's hammered. Like, I almost made a lesson out of the guy who made my weekend. And I felt bad about that.
It humbled you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't know what's going on in these people's lives and why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing what they got to do in some ways.
I've had, because I can be judgmental off that too. People will come up to me, I'm like, here we fucking go, request. And I'm like, not ignoring them, but I'm just like this. And I like take my headphones, I was like, what? I just want to let you know you're an amazing DJ. I'm like, fuck, dude. God damn it. I'm like, what? All right, now please request a song. Now I have to play.
Exactly.
So it's funny. I mean, the request shit is hilarious. I'll act like I speak Spanish sometimes.
No.
And they'll just be like, what? What is going on? I'll just speak nothing but Spanish.
Has anyone ever come back with some Spanish?
Oh, yeah. That's when I'm like, all right, what do you want?
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll walk away and then I'll get on the mic and speak English and they're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I thought he only spoke Spanish. And then I'll say something in English on the mic, like, happy birthday to this person. They're like, they either laugh about it
or they're hurt.
Or they're like, what an asshole. But typically if they request a song, like, a lot of times I already have it queued up, and before they even leave, I'll play it, and they're like, oh, that was awesome. And I'm like, all right. Those are like the fun things to do. Like,
Yeah.
not to necessarily fuck with people, kind of make a joke out of it, but keep them happy. Like that girl last night was cussing me out. After she said I'm sorry, I played her song, and then I became the best DJ in the world.
What? Oh man,
But-
you know I don't want to put the C word on this show for the first time because I think my mom watches. But what a cunt! I mean, just Jesus God, dude.
Yeah, man. No, it was I don't know, man. People, but you know, with alcohol,
Facts.
it's
When people make a request and then they leave during that request, though, like I want to hit them with a Bowser-sized shell at that point, like
Oh, my
Mario Kart. Like I want
gosh.
to end their day. You know?
yeah. Especially when they come up, can you play a song? We're about to leave. I'm like, leave.
I hope they get hit by a bird scooter.
Right. Like you're about to stop giving business to a place that you're wanting something from. Like, you know how used I feel right now?
Yeah.
Come on.
Man, as you're going through this musical education now, has your context of DJs as musicians changed, or has it kind of enhanced that thought?
Enhance and kind of a little bit of both, man. It's more of the production side of things. I get things like I listen to music now and I'm like ripping it apart. Like, okay, what is this? How'd they do this melody? How did they? You learn to respect so much, but I'm starting to realize a lot of the digital DJ production game, it's almost like cheating too. Like, I thought producing music, you'd have to get on the keys and be like, all right, from scratch. Dude, there's programs that'll do keys for you, and all they do is like copy and paste into their song, and then they switch it around, and it's like, now you have a harmony that you really didn't do. But I realize a lot of people, majority of people are doing that.
Yeah.
And there's very few DJ artists that are actually like doing stuff from scratch. But
Well, and I think the question of what that merits too is very different. It's
Yeah.
like, if you use samples, should you have to pay for that sample? Yeah, that makes sense. If you take that sample and you remanipulate and reinterpret that sample, should you have to pay for that sample? I think so. If you take
Yeah.
that and you make something totally unrecognizable, but that bit and piece came from there, should you have to pay? It's like, maybe a little bit less. What if I AI generated the sample I use? It's like we can go farther and farther away from it, and there always has to be a level of taking your hands off the music. It's like, I don't own this progression. I don't own this verbal phrase. I hope I own my songs, and I hope I own my rights to my songs. But that world's changing really, really quickly.
yeah, and everybody's get rich quick nowadays. And I will never be a sellout on music. I give credit where credit's due. If there's DJs that I don't like or don't get along with, and they're amazing DJs, they're amazing DJs. You can't take that from them. But nowadays, there's so many people that are taking other people's work and like posting it, and they're getting famous off of it. And you look at it like, man, you could sell out and do that, but I could never do that. I'm not sleeping good at night.
Yeah.
But there's other people that, where I say like music production, there's so many ghost producers. The people that stand up on stage and they're playing music that they never produced. They don't know shit about production, and they're taking the credit for it. But
Yeah, they're just the personality and the package behind it. But I think, you also look around at like Like, there's major brands in our lives so that the product is the same as the company next door, but it's branded different. It's like Grey Goose is one of those where it's like, this used to be a shitty vodka, but then it relabeled as a premium brand.
Right.
Like, there's DJs out there that were, you know, they're well whiskey, but then they rebranded and they're fucking top shelf
Right.
now. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of bullying helps that.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about it is, like, you have respect from the customer, the crowd, but I think the most important is the respect from your peers. And, like, within that circle of, like, you know who your peers are. You as a musician with everybody in Cincinnati who's musicians, you guys probably are like, all right, this person knows their shit with this, and you guys kind of know. As DJs, we're kind of like, this person's full of shit, or this one's good, this one's, you know, they put the work in. And
there's no smoke and mirrors when you're talking about people that are right next to you. But I think there's also that level of, like, the only person that can judge you is you and the great unknown. You know what I mean? It's like your peers will sometimes eat you alive for things that they would have done if they got to it first. There's peers in your life that'll cut you down because they see you doing well, and then there's vice versa. There's people that'll give you hands up because they think you're dog shit. You know, it's just like there's people that'll set you up for failure, and that's a tough thing in small communities.
it's tough. The DJ world is really tough with that because I came from more of like a purist culture. You have to be a good DJ, learn how to scratch. And then, you know, I burned a lot of bridges when I was younger because I was hating on people who I didn't believe were, like, up to par and were getting better gigs. I was like, but then I realized they're just better at marketing. They're better at this aspect of things. And at the end of the day, you know, you go back to what I always try to go back to, like, are they a good person? That's what's most important overall, you know. But in the culture that we're in, most of the good people aren't, like, faking their way or bullshitting their way through things. There's some people who do take advantage of the system. You kind of just look at them, shake your head, because if you were to call them out, you're a hater.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, all right, do your thing, but
Yeah, but you know, keeping your head down and doing you is the best you can get
well,
to
the
get
only
in that
one-
situation.
yeah, just compete with yourself.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm starting to realize.
Just
So.
play with yourself as much as possible. Sorry. All right.
You're good.
When's the DJ battles?
Start July 2nd.
July 2nd. So Sundays at the Tin Roof.
Sundays at Tin Roof.
How many weeks will it last?
We're going to go all the way till September.
God damn.
Yeah.
Dude, when I'm over there playing at, 11 to midnight at Fishbowl and they got the doors open, open there. Like, I'm having my own DJ set over there trying to push along with y'all because I'm like, obviously they're in D and I'm playing this in E and we're rubbing, so I better transpose.
amazing.
Bro, it's crazy. It's just like, you don't realize how sound travels till you realize how sound travels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't stop at the walls, at the confines.
No.
We need more bodies in both these rooms to suck some of that juice up.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, the battles, it's a great event. It's a lot of stress and drama for me.
Yeah.
You guys see the good side of it, and then I hear the whining every single week.
Oh,
I'm
bro,
like,
I can't imagine.
yeah.
Coordinating the schedule, being HR. Dude, I don't know where you raise this money from, but God bless you for doing the 10
Roof.
grand.
Tin Roof.
Dude, really?
Yeah, sponsors and Tin Roof. Thank God for Will Hodges. So.
Yeah. Will Hodges, as much as we talk shit about you on this program, we love you, Will. Come on sometime, buddy.
No, he's come through for the battles every time, and
Yeah.
been fortunate and grateful enough to do them there, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah. That's a guy that regardless what he tells you, you know what he wants? He wants the best. He
Yeah.
wants the best entertainment. Who he wants the best for, he's a madman
Yeah.
for. He wants the best golf clothing brand. And I'm like, where did you even find this category, bro? But I like to believe that his putting game's really nice and that his driving game not so much. So
Driving game's amazing.
No.
Yeah, 100 yards in, you don't want no parts of it. I think he putts from 100 yards out. No, but he's a good player.
yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm not getting in the golf game. I don't want to see that side of people.
You might like it. You might like it, man.
I'm horrible with hand-eye
pretty,
sports.
You're a pretty zen person, so it's more of like therapeutic.
Yeah.
It's,
I think with things that involved using a club to hit a small object, that's when like my innermost tensions come out, and like I'll give myself hemorrhoids playing a game like that, dude. Like I'll be squeezing and fucking crying my way through a lot of things.
it's funny.
Yeah,
No,
dude.
it's fun, but I feel you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on today, brother. Anything you want to promote in addition to that? Your channels to find you, Lucy's.
Yeah, just stay in tune. Hopefully by November we'll have another restaurant, brick and mortar.
Okay. Okay.
Lucy's Taco still growing.
Would that be the name of the brick and mortar?
No, the place is gonna be called Casa Arana.
Okay,
So,
cool.
House of Arana, pretty much.
I love that.
So
Any idea on what part of town?
we're looking at a location in Pike Street right now in Covington.
Okay.
So it's gonna have a huge outdoor patio, and it'll be cool. It'll be pretty much everything that we've ever envisioned in doing without Amigos, but like magnified, and just I learned so much from Amigos that I'm like, okay, let's do it right this time. Let's really go all out.
Yeah. Take a break for a little bit, come back even stronger.
Yeah. No, this break is amazing right now, because once that place opens, I'm back to having no life.
I think with the amount you work, you're almost there, Richie.
Yeah.
So I love you, brother. I appreciate the hell out of you. Thanks for
Yes,
coming
sir,
on.
man.
Peace, players.